Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Tonight we drop in at Rainbow Alley at the GLBT Center of Colorado to meet a Colorado young adult author. Among her other work is Luna, a National Book Award finalist, and the groundbreaking YA romance Keeping You a Secret. More recently, Rage, a love story dealing with domestic abuse between a young lesbian couple. And Julie's latest work, She Loves You Not, partly set in a Colorado mountain community. Today we're coming to you from Rainbow Alley, which is within the center, the GLBT Center of Denver, Colorado. And the reason we're here is this is a drop-in place for LGBT teens and their allies. And we're here because we're meeting with a wonderful Colorado author, again, Julianne Peters, who's a YA author. And most of your books target LGBT storylines and readership. Is that accurate to say?
That's true.
That's true.
Yes.
Not all of them, but a good portion of them.
Yes.
And you have a brand new book that just came out this summer called She Loves You Not.
Correct.
Tell me about this book. How did you come up with the inspiration for this wonderful story?
Well, here's the book, first of all.
Isn't that a great cover?
It is a great cover.
I know most authors have a love-hate relationship with the covers
well,
of their books.
Well, it wasn't the original cover, I have to tell you. And when I saw the original cover they had, I said, oh no, that won't do, because that looks like a dark Gothic romance, and that isn't the tone of this book at all.
No.
This book is a love story of sorts. In this book, my main character is 17-year-old Alyssa. She is from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and she's recently been dumped by her girlfriend, betrayed in the very worst way.
In high school.
In high school. And then her father discovers that she is a lesbian. She hasn't told him before now because she knows how homophobic he is. And so he disowns her and sends her across country to live in Colorado in the mountains with this mother from whom she's estranged. A mother.
It's her biological mother.
It is. But she has sort of flitted in and out of Alyssa's life over the years at her own convenience. And so Alyssa has pretty much lost her foundation, her home life, and she doesn't really feel that she has a sense of self or place.
As you're describing Alyssa, one thing that strikes me is even though she's a lesbian and this has an LGBT sort of focus for your audience, this is really for any teen.
Well, I
those
think
kinds
it
of
is.
experiences any teen can relate
Exactly,
to that.
right. Anyone could break up with their boyfriend or, have trouble with their parents and be thrown out of the house, or have a divorce happen in their family and have to go live with the other parent that they don't know as well.
And I point that out because I think sometimes readers might hear Julianne Peters and she's a YA author that focuses on gay and lesbian storylines and miss the fact that they're just good stories.
Well, I hope that they attract straight readers too, and I do hear from a lot of straight readers who say, "Oh, I really identify with your stories because I've had similar things happen to me, or it's something that hasn't happened to me, and it's good to read about this kind of experience, and feel that has happened to somebody else or a friend of mine."
So our heroine, Alyssa,
Yes.
ends up in Colorado with a mom that she doesn't know.
That she doesn't know, she barely knows. And so Alyssa obviously has some trust issues. She has betrayal on a lot of different levels that she has to overcome.
When you're writing for a young adult audience, the kinds of situations that you are able to demonstrate, are you also trying to be a teacher or are you solely trying to entertain?
For me, it's entertainment. If there's education that comes out of it, that's just a plus. But for me, I'm just trying to tell a good story that's entertaining to me while I'm writing it.
I have to say that I've read a number of your books, and I love this one too. One of the things that strikes me is that label, YA lit, young adult literature. I'm no longer in that market, but I'm still very entertained by your work.
But you're young at heart, right?
That's right, I am.
And when we were young adults, we didn't have this kind of literature. We didn't have the kind of comfort and validation that it brings you as a person of difference.
So what separates it from just a good story, just a regular novel? What makes it a YA novel? Is it just that it's about teens?
Yes, although we're all on the same spectrum of life, I think, and we've all experienced these same kinds of situations. It's always a challenge to write contemporary literature because pop culture changes so quickly.
Yeah.
But I think what is true is that humanity doesn't change. We still fall in love and out of love. We still have to make decisions and deal with the consequences of those decisions. And so these are things that are universal to everybody.
I think maybe another component, and this is just me guessing about what makes it YA, is that it's not a formula per se, but we know that there's a safety that we can expect from the work of a YA writer, in that it's not going to be gratuitous. There's not going to be gratuitous violence or gratuitous sex, that sort of thing. Is that on target, do you think?
We hope not. We hope that editors filter out those kinds of things for teens. Personally, I think it's actually excellent literature, where it's really well written. You have to condense the length of the book. You have to tell a good story, because I think young readers are very impatient readers. Now, if they don't connect with your work after the first page or the first 2 pages, they just give it up, because there are a lot of better things for them to do with their time. You're competing with TV and with movies and other entertainment, other electronics, and so I think that readers, and especially if you have a loyal following,
Which you do.
which I absolutely do.
Language, the dialogue, it seems to be a critical component in YA literature as well, because it can't ring false. It has to be realistic, especially if
Right.
it's a contemporary setting.
Right, absolutely.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I think I'm really into pop culture. I love reality TV, so I watch everything. I listen to how kids talk. I get a lot of letters from kids, and so I think I just absorb it, and I enjoy it.
Well, you get a lot of letters from kids, but how do you listen to how kids talk? How do you have that connection? You're not a mom,
No, I'm not a mom.
so how do you have that connection with young adults?
They write in their own language. They certainly don't filter it. They don't formalize it. And so I hear what they sound like. I hear their voices. And I just have this voice inside of me. When I project myself into a young adult novel, I can hear the voice coming to me.
How does that work?
I don't know. It's just magical.
I think that's true for lots of writers. There's a component of magic to how stories and characters come to them.
Right.
I remember the first time I spoke to you, you were talking about a character that was really removed from your experience. It was your National Book Award nomination, Luna,
Right.
and how that character came to you. Is that a typical process for some of these characters, like the characters in this book?
I don't know if every process is the same, but I never feel as though I'm writing about myself. And so when I connect with a character, I really can hear their particular voice and experience what they're going through when I'm working on a story. I'm certainly outside of myself.
We often have heard advice given to writers, write what you know. Well, in some ways, you're kind of writing what you know, but what you've just described is a component of something you don't know or didn't experience. You're writing outside yourself.
Right.
Is that a contradictory kind of paradigm that you're working in, or is there a way you can explain it so that a young writer can understand how to apply both of those kinds of ideas?
I think that I'm writing something inside of me that I feel deeply about, or some kind of discovery that I'm trying to make about myself.
Oh,
Something that needs to be expressed, that I haven't done verbally or in any kind of art form.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel that it's something that I need to get out. Okay. It is hard to explain, but I do feel like I make a personal discovery within myself with each new book. And sometimes I'll get to the end and go, oh, okay, well, that's what I was writing about.
Do you do research to help you flesh out the details of these kinds of stories?
Well, I always have to do some research for every book that I write.
What sort of research did you do for She Loves You, She Loves You Not?
Well, I've never been to Virginia. Alyssa's from Virginia Beach. I don't know why. I don't know why she had to be from Virginia Beach. So I had to do all kinds of research about Virginia and Virginia Beach.
Did you get to take a visit?
No, I didn't. And then I had a reader write to me and say, there isn't a high school that has a mascot called the Cougars, because in one of the first scenes, Sarah and Alyssa, who the girl that she's in love with, they stop and there's a banner on the wall that says "Go Cougars." I thought, great.
But
So
sometimes
I missed
that could be to sort of make it more accessible, so it's not one particular school, or was that just accidental?
Right, that's what I said. Oh, well, I meant to fictionalize that. But it
You
was
fictionalize some places in Colorado, which we know that you're very familiar with Colorado.
Right, absolutely. And in this book, I created a town called Majestic that's up in the mountains, but I did base it on the town of Frisco, which I know. And so
that's why it seems a little familiar, but I couldn't place where it was.
Right. I do like making up places so that I can create businesses, and I can create landmarks, and I don't have to be so particular about things. But I also put some familiar things in there too, so that people from Colorado will recognize them. And so I do the Sangre de Cristo Mountains are in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fire that happens in this book, and all of those places are real. So there's some reality mixed with the fiction.
Artists often talk about creating art is about setting up a problem and trying to solve it. Does that resonate with you?
I don't do it. What do I want to say? That deliberately. But it is mostly. Sometimes I'll start with a story idea, and sometimes I'll start with a character.
How did this one start?
I think it started with a point of view, actually, that I wanted. But, we'll get to that when we talk about maybe the inspiration for this book and what I wanted to accomplish with this book.
Well, what did you want to accomplish with this book?
Well, I had 4 goals that I wanted to accomplish with this book. First of all, Keeping You a Secret was my first lesbian love story, young adult lesbian love story.
I think it's the first one I ever read.
And
I don't think I remember seeing a young adult lesbian real love story like that before.
Right. It was fairly early on in LGBTQ literature, mainstream literature. And it's been one of my best sellers. I still get so many young readers who identify with that book and love that book because it's their first coming out experience. And so I thought, I've been writing now for 20 years, and I love that book, and they still love that book, so I thought, I want to circle back and write another lesbian love story. And at first, this may not seem like a lesbian love story, but it turns out to be in that vein. Second of all, Cece in Keeping You a Secret is such a beloved character because she is an out and proud lesbian.
Right.
And so in this book, in She Loves You, She Loves You Not, I wanted to make Alyssa secure in her sexuality.
Yeah, she's not dealing with
coming out to herself.
Or feeling, less than
No.
because of being a lesbian.
Exactly.
She has other issues that.
Right. She knows who she is. She's always known. Her only problem is she hasn't told her father because she knows how he feels about it. And so I hope that readers admire her for who she is. Third, I wanted to create this town of Majestic in the way that I created a town for this book, Far from Xanadu.
Which is another great cover, by the way. You get some of the best covers.
But it's been re-released as Pretend You Love Me with a new title and a new cover.
Why the new title?
I think that my publisher is trying to give this book new life, new shelf life.
Oh.
So one time I mentioned to my editor, I'd really like to have a book called At Least Pretend You Love Me. And so she said, well, why don't we call this book Pretend You Love Me? And I went, okay, I wonder where you got that.
It had been released as paperback already before this iteration. Yes,
but this is a new paperback, and I love this cover too. I think it has a kind of a sexy cover in a not overt way. So in this book, I created a town called Colton in Kansas, a small town with a small town girl, where the town had a great effect on who the main character was.
A sense of place.
Right, when she was growing up. And so in She Loves You Not, I wanted to create another place called Majestic that would have an effect on Alyssa as a place where she would recognize as home. And so
even though she had never been there.
Right. She would come to recognize a place as a sense of home. And so it would give her home the way that this small town in Kansas had given Mike a home. And so it would give her a new sense of place and a new sense of home.
That's number 3.
Okay, and then the fourth thing I wanted to do, which is maybe how this book came about, was I wanted to write a book with second person point of view. And because I'd never tried that before, and with every book I want to somehow spread my wings artistically. I thought, okay, second person would be such a cool thing to learn how to do and to try to do. And second person, if you're not familiar with it, is like having a character who's looking inside a bubble and watching her life go on. Or maybe being above herself on the ceiling and listening to herself and watching herself, watching her life, but in any case being detached from where she is. And so I thought this would be a great way to do flashbacks.
What steps did you take to sort of figure out how to do that? Because sometimes writers try these different points of view and they come across as gimmicky. Or an exercise.
Right.
And it felt very organic to me in reading this piece.
Well, there were a lot of revisions, I have to tell you.
So what sources did you look to help figure out how to do this well?
Well, my editor helped me by saying, this just doesn't flow quite as normally or organically as it should. And so
this is an editor you've worked with for some time.
Yes, for a long time. And let's let your readers feel what Alyssa is feeling as she's looking back on this. And so she helped me to incorporate this second point of view so that it seems very seamless as you're reading the book.
Is there a lesson about how to accomplish this that you can share with young writers?
No, it's just practice. I think with everything, it's just practice.
That's an important lesson.
Yeah. It's just trying
something
new.
Get in there and try it.
Right. You have to try it to see if it's going to work. If it hadn't worked, I would have thrown it out and used it in another book.
Did you want to do that just as a way to try something new, or was it actually serving this story as you started to try that technique?
I think both. Yeah. I wanted to do flashbacks, but I'd done flashbacks before, and so I thought, well, this will be a new way to do it, and I want to try writing something in second person.
You have a really wonderful relationship with your readers.
I do. I love my readers. It's this cycle of empowerment I get from them.
Does that make you feel a different kind of responsibility in your work because you have that kind of connection with your readers, or do you just feel a responsibility to the work?
I feel like I have to keep going. Sometimes I just want to stop, and then I'll get a letter from a reader who says, "Oh, your books have meant so much to me." And I just got a letter from this reader that it was this long, long letter, and she said, "The first time I wrote to you, I was 11 years old. And you gave me some advice, and I have read every book since, and I'm now 19, and I'm going to be starting at Yale, and I still love your books, and I get every one of your books, and they've meant so much to me over the years. And I think, oh, just let me retire. Or my readers will say, when's your next book? And I say, I just put one out. You have to give me a little time to write the next one. It's like, don't read these in 2 hours when it takes me 3 years or 4 years to write them.
I think they'd be surprised that it can take that long from the time you finish it and it goes through all that process.
It does. It takes 4 to 5 years to do a book.
So on behalf of your readers, and maybe even some of your new readers who are going to buy this book now as their first exposure to your work, what is next?
What is next? Well, I've been working on a book for the last 4 years. Actually, it's been a really difficult book. It was supposed to be.
They don't all just flow out of you onto the page and miraculously show up at the store?
I wish they would. I wish I could just crank them out. Like people say, oh, why don't you crank out another book? Like, geesh.
So what is this next one?
Well, my last book, by the time you read this, I'll Be Dead, was such a heavy book.
And so was Rage.
And Rage was such a heavy book. I thought, oh, I have to lighten up or I'm going to need therapy. I really am. So I thought, okay, I just want to write a funny book that has this lighthearted kind of tone and a story. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do a book. I'm going to spread my artistic wings and tell it in 3 different voices.
Oh.
Because I've never done that before. I've never told a book in even 2 different voices. And so it was this book about an alternative prom. And these 2, a lesbian and a bisexual boy, are going to put on this alternative prom. But in addition to that, the subplot was they're both in love with their other best friend.
Oh,
yes.
They're both in love with the same person.
They're both in love with the same girl. And so there are some love triangles and quadrangles going on that kind of make things difficult. And
sounds like high school.
Yes, it's very high school. And it was a funny book, and you know, the prom has all these ridiculous ideas that people submit, you know.
Even a lighthearted book can take 4 years to write.
So I just wanted it to be a funny book, but I sent it into my editor and I got this 8-page letter back of all the things that didn't work. And so one of the hardest things was they thought it should just be told in 2 voices. And so, because they didn't really connect with this 3rd character, but the 3rd character's story intertwined with the other 2. And so I thought, oh, rather than just try to revise this book, I'm just going to start over. And I did. I just scrapped that book and I started the whole thing over again.
Wow.
Which it sometimes happens. You have to be open to that. And
you can't let it, you can be discouraged for a moment, but you have to get back to work.
For a moment, I was discouraged for a week, a good week.
Well, in the span of a 4-year process, a week is a moment.
Right. Not only that, but I got that letter on Christmas Eve, and I thought, what a nice way to just spoil my holiday.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you so much. Yeah, Merry
Start
Christmas.
over.
And they signed it, the Scrooges.
Oh, no.
Yes. They did say, don't read this until after the holidays, but of course I had to.
That was a way to ensure you were going to open it right
Of
away.
course, of course.
Is that book coming out soon?
It is, actually. And so I took all of their suggestions, and they wanted me to add more substance to it so that it wasn't just a lighthearted comedy. And it was tough for me to find that balance between the comedy and the substance of a character. Because, you know, with Janet Ivanovich, you know, I love her books. They're very funny, but I don't think Lula has a lot of substance, you know, as a character. She's an ex-prostitute. So anyway, so I had to find this balance and rewrite these characters and kind of rethink them.
Right.
And I sent that revision in. I finally got it done in about 4 months, and then I just got another letter back that was 5 pages, at least it was shorter, about all the things that were still wrong with it, that didn't quite work. And so I just got that done Saturday, and
Oh.
sent it in. Yeah. So it's kind of on the fast track to still come out next year. And that book is called This Is Our Prom, So Deal With It.
I think that sort of sets the tone right there, doesn't
it? Does. I think it's going to be a really great book. I am pretty proud of it.
Well, I've enjoyed so many of your books.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you, Eden. It's always a pleasure. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
That's all for this edition. Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. With all that Colorado has to offer, we're here to help you keep it in focus. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.